Bad cholesterol, LDL, low-density lipoproteins. This lipoprotein is actually the one responsible for transporting cholesterol from the liver to the rest of the body. LDL has a form called pattern B, which is considered more atherogenic and is an important risk factor in the development of atherosclerosis. 2. The good cholesterol, HDL high-density lipoproteins. This lipoprotein performs the opposite action to LDL, meaning it returns cholesterol from the cells in the body back to the liver. One of its properties is its ability to counteract the oxidation of cholesterol, and it diverts cholesterol from the bloodstream. Studies have shown that HDL, mainly with the help of an enzyme found in HDL called peroxinase, can prevent the oxidation of LDL, which can lead to a decrease in damage to the endothelial cells in the blood vessels, which, among other things, is caused by the oxidized LDL. HDL can also be oxidized, which will impair its ability to return cholesterol to the liver and will also cause a phenomenon called macrophages, a cell that removes foreign particles from the body's fluids and essentially an accumulation of cholesterol. Moreover, OHDL, oxidized HDL, is neurotoxic and has been shown to play a role during the onset of contraction arteries that contributes to the formation of arterial heart disease. Another interesting thing about this disease is that the possibility was tested that certain hormones such as estrogen, a female hormone, although it is also found in men in a small amount, plus progestin, can help prevent the disease. Guess what? These hormones lowered the general cholesterol level, in addition, lowered the LDL level and raised the HDL level. This is also probably the reason why women are more protected against arterial diseases until the period when the level of estrogen in their body drops significantly, during menopause. How does this relate to fats? You will understand now cholesterol and fats, good fats 1. Polyunsaturated fats. Polyunsaturated fats are fats in which the number of double bonds between the carbons is greater than 1. Examples of foods that contain this type of fat: walnuts, sesame oil, northern sea fish, almonds, canola oil, tahini, etc. This fat does not significantly affect the ratio of HDL-MLDL. This type of fat is a source for the creation of omega-3 and 6 fatty acids that are essential for the body. The body is not able to produce them on its own. 2. Monounsaturated fats. Monounsaturated fats are fats that contain one double bond. For example, foods that contain this type of fat: nuts, olive oil, avocado, etc. Fats of this type lower the LDL level. Bad fats 2. Saturated fat. A type of fat that does not have double bonds. The saturated fat seems to increase the production of testosterone in the body, but it is recommended that its amount does not exceed 30% of the amount of fat we consume. Sources of saturated fat: meat, eggs, milk, and more. This fat raises the level of LDL and thus contributes to our chance of getting heart disease. A high level of this fat and cholesterol can lead to a high level of bile acid in the large intestine or lead to an imbalance in the metabolism of certain fatty acids. Also, saturated fat can contribute to the development of cancerous tumors. But this fat is not completely bad because it increases the production of the testosterone hormone in our bodies. Also, if you combine this fat with other fats in the right amounts, some of its bad effects can be eliminated. 3. The ugly trans fat artificially created in a process called hydrogenation, adding a hydrogen molecule to the oil in order to harden it at room temperature. This fat is present in margarine, borax, chips, snacks, etc. Similar to saturated fat, it raises LDL and can lead to cancerous tumors. Conjugated linoleic acid, CLA. It is an acid whose most important property is as an anti-tumor and belongs to the polyunsaturated fatty acid family. It can also help prevent heart disease, found mainly in beef, red meat, and milk, and in low concentration in the human body. In the human body, conjugated linoleic acid is found in muscle tissue, and the body's subcutaneous depot. Some researchers believe that this acid can help in the war against cancerous tumors. In one study, the level of effect of CLA was tested in different types of meat. It appears that in high-fat meat, 30+%, its effect is low, probably due to the high concentrations of saturated fat and cholesterol. Conversely, in the meat where the fat level is lower, around 15%, the effect was greater. So how do we actually know what our cholesterol status is? When we perform a blood test, there are two things that interest us regarding cholesterol: total cholesterol, TC total cholesterol, and the ratio between HDL-MLDL. In a normal state, the level of total cholesterol in the blood will be lower than 200 milligrams. In a situation above 200 milligrams, the risk of getting coronary heart disease increases. Note that every milligram is important because with every milligram, the risk increases. Regarding the HDL-LDL ratio, many times you will hear from the doctor that one of them should be lowered or raised, but it is important that you know the reason. What is most important is the relationship between the two. As already explained before, both work in different directions. One leads the cholesterol to the tissues, and the other returns it to the liver. That is, there should be some kind of balance between the two. To make it easy for us, we will define a certain relationship that should exist between the two. The normal ratio is 1:4 in favor of the LDL, while a ratio smaller than that will also be suitable. That is, if our HDL level is 30, the LDL level will not be higher than 120, preferably at least. In the opposite situation, where the ratio is not normal, that is higher than 1:4, there is a danger that cholesterol will remain on the walls, something that will lead to a condition of blockage and subsequently to heart disease. Endogenous cholesterol, produced in the body, and exonic cholesterol, derived from food. There is a connection between the two. If we consume more cholesterol from food, the liver will produce less. The liver can produce approximately up to 2 grams of cholesterol per day. Take, for example, an egg, which is known to be rich in cholesterol, around 210 milligrams of cholesterol. It was found that the addition of 100 mgd of cholesterol, this is a case, and we exceeded the 2 grams mentioned before, will increase the general cholesterol level by 2.2 mgdl, which is about 1%. Of course, these are healthy people who are not sensitive to cholesterol. This will lead to a 1.9 mgdl increase in LDL and a 0.4 mgdl increase in HDL. As you can see, the effect is extremely low. Remember, the normal ratio is 1/4 or less in favor of LDL. In other words, it can be seen that egg consumption does not harm cholesterol levels in the body. Moreover, consuming a whole egg can be beneficial due to the presence of the antioxidants lutein and zeaxanthin, which can be an excellent source of carotenoids, red or yellow pigment. In conclusion, we saw what cholesterol is, what are its functions in the body, and what are the types of cholesterol. We came to know who the lipoproteins are, the good and the bad cholesterol, what are their properties and their role in the human body. We have seen the connection between the fats we consume and cholesterol and lipoproteins. We also saw how the consumption of cholesterol from food affects the body and lipoproteins, and that eating an egg is not as bad as they say. Omega-3. What is omega-3, and why is it so important for humans? The omega sign is a biochemical sign that indicates the presence of a double bond between the 3rd and 4th carbons of the end of the fatty acid chain. In simple words, the fatty acid is considered an omega-3 unsaturated fatty acid. The enzymes in the human body do not know how to create omega-3 fatty acids on their own, so they are considered essential fatty acids, just like essential amino acids, and must be obtained from food. Today, in the Western diet, the ratio between omega-6 and omega-3 is 1:14, 20, depending on who you ask, in favor of omega-6. That is, for every gram of omega-3, we consume about 20 grams of omega-6. This unbalanced relationship only leads to trouble. For example, an increase in the chance of developing cardiovascular diseases, an increase in the level of sugar in the blood, an increase in the level of cholesterol and fats in the blood, and an increase in inflammatory factors in the body. Therefore, most of the largest health organizations in the world recommend that every person consume omega-3. In most cases, this will be from a food supplement. The benefits of omega-3 fatty acids are indisputable in the scientific literature. Fatty acids of this type have many benefits, some of which apply to the general population, but some also apply specifically to the athlete population. I have summarized the main benefits for you, those that have been proven in clinical studies and apply to the general population and the training population. 1. Improving the profile of lipids and cholesterol in the blood. Omega-3 consumption has been proven to help improve the profile of lipids and cholesterol in the blood. This is an advantage for every person, exercising or not. 2. Improving the level of glucose in the blood and the efficiency of its introduction into the cell, very essential for athletes. Helps prevent the accumulation of unnecessary fat mass and helps in the anabolism, building of muscle tissue. 3. Improving concentration and memory, an advantage for every person. Improving concentration can be especially good for those who want to get the most out of training. 4. Anti-inflammatory fatty acids, very essential for athletes. Omega-3 fatty acids reduce the risk of inflammation in the body and improve the recovery of the immune system after training. And what about plant products that contain omega-3? I'll sum it up in one word: bullshit. If you have heard from someone that you can also get omega-3 from the plant, flax, walnuts, etc., you will know that the conversion efficiency of omega-3 from the plant and its use in the human body aims for 0. Studies have proven that the enzymes of most people do not know how to utilize the plant source of omega-3 for the benefit of the body. The only way to get omega-3 regularly and daily is by eating fish or using a supplement. When and how to consume omega-3? The recommended dose is 600 to 1,800 milligrams omega-3 per day. An average capsule contains 300 milligrams, so the recommended dose is 6 capsules a day. The standard division is that out of 300 milligrams omega-3 we have 180 milligrams EPA, eicosapentaenoic acid, and 120 milligrams DHA, docosahexaenoic acid. These are the two main omega-3 fatty acids that are active in the human body. This is the recommended ratio according to the World Health Organizations, and it is important to adhere to it. At the moment, there is no recommended dosage for athletes, so you should use the upper range of the recommendation for the general population. As the intensity of your training increases, give your body more omega-3 support. Fat burners, do they really work? Or bullshit that people invented to make money? In the diet market, there is a wide variety of substances on which the promise fat burners is made. Is there even a substance that can do this without diet and exercise? And what dangers might lie in those materials? Throughout the year, we are exposed to countless publications about various substances that promise us a rapid decrease in fat, the narrowing of the circumferences that we will get rid of the double chin or the flabby stomach. More often than not, the same advertisements for the legendary magic pills can confuse us into believing that one pill a day will do all the work for us, while we can sit cross-legged, scratch our chubby bellies, and do nothing. But before you run to take those miracle pills, you should know what is hidden behind the explosive name fat burner, what ingredients it contains, and whether they really live up to the promises of rapid fat loss. In any case, before starting the use of any of the substances, the benefits should be carefully weighed against the risk. In addition, those suffering from diseases such as diabetes, blood pressure problems, or cardiovascular problems of this and that kind are advised to avoid using fat burners. Fat burners, what's behind the promise? Let's start by dispelling the wet dream that some of us may have. Fat burners, when they stand on their own, are not worth the box they are sold in. What is meant by this is that if you only use them, the physical change you will see will be minimal, maybe even zero. So in that case, it is simply a waste of money to spend on them. But the fault is not only yours. In the fat burners market, there are many companies that produce preparations that have zero connection with fat burning and therefore are of no use in the matter. But there are also companies whose products can be beneficial in one way or another for increased fat burning, but they usually do not explain how the supplement should be used in the best way, and as a result, cause the consumers to be misled, intentionally or not. Those fat burners that can help in the weight loss process are based on several main and active components whose purpose is to help the fat oxidation process efficiently and quickly. We will discuss some of those components to put a little order on the subject. Caffeine. The amino acid L-carnitine is found in a certain amount on the mitochondria of the cell. The role of the mitochondria is to produce energy and provide the cell with what it needs for its existence. The main function of the amino acid carnitine is to bring the fatty acids into the mitochondria to produce energy from them. Artificial addition of the amino acid to carnitine is supposed to increase the introduction of fat from the blood into the muscle, which sounds like something good for the body. But what the companies that sell this supplement don't tell you is that most of the studies done regarding the addition of L-carnitine to healthy people found that despite the addition, no significant change was found in its concentration in the mitochondrial envelope and no positive change was seen. Caffeine has been studied for decades in connection with its effect on thermogenesis, increase in energy expenditure beyond metabolism in the human body. To this day, there are disagreements in the scientific literature regarding the question of the effectiveness of caffeine in increasing energy expenditure, and reducing caloric consumption, food intake. But it is known that it helps to move the fatty acids from the fat cells into the bloodstream and burn them more efficiently. In addition, it is known that it helps to increase the feeling of energy and vigor throughout the day, and especially during training. The main problem with caffeine is that our body adapts to it quickly after a few days of use, and therefore its effect decreases. According to most studies, in order to enjoy the effect of caffeine for a long time, it is necessary to make a break in the use every few days. The recommendation is to use caffeine for 4 consecutive days, and then take a break for 3 full days. The break should also include tea, coffee, and caffeinated sodas. In such a way of use, it will be possible to enjoy the energetic feelings described above in a more efficient way. The safety of caffeine use. Caffeine, as a fat burner, is one of the safest substances to use. The short-term lethal dose is 5 to 10 grams per day, an amount equal to 75 cups of black coffee, 25 cups of tea, or 200 cans of cola. In the long term, there are disagreements about the effect of caffeine consumption on the health of the body. Following increased caffeine consumption, over 200 milligrams according to most studies, the systolic and diastolic blood pressure rises and drops back to the normal range after 1 to 2 hours. Ephedrine is a substance found in the ephedra plant. The ephedra plant is widely found in China and Mongolia, where it has been used for thousands of years as a stimulant. It is important to note that currently ephedrine is not approved for use by the FDA, American Food and Drug Administration, because of its side effects. Due to the dangers it contains, it is not recommended for use. Ephedrine works by 2 mechanisms. One, which is probably the main one, is by increasing the secretion of norepinephrine, an excitatory neurotransmitter, and adrenaline from the adrenal gland. Another mechanism helps to increase thermogenesis in the brown fat tissue and to utilize the fat reserves as a source of energy. From studies carried out in humans, it emerged that the energy expenditure increases by about 10% following the use of ephedrine. Unlike the use of caffeine, when using this substance, the effect is maintained for several months, which indicates little adaptation of the body to the use of ephedrine. The safety of the use of ephedrine. As mentioned, the FDA banned the use and sale of ephedrine following its controversial effect on the cardiovascular system, heart and blood vessels. Studies have found that ephedrine use can consistently raise blood pressure, increase heart rate, increase glucose concentration, and decrease potassium concentration in the bloodstream. All of these have effects that may endanger the cardiovascular system in the human body. In addition, a connection was found between the use of ephedrine and psychiatric symptoms, disturbances in the nervous system, and in the upper digestive system. L-carnitine citrus aurantium, see aurantium. The citrus aurantium, or by its other name, bitter orange, is a fruit that is hardly used for human consumption due to its strong and bitter taste. In some places in the world, such as Iran and Mexico, it is cooked and certain spices and sauces are made omid. The common use of citrus aurantium is in various medical preparations, including additives such as fat burners. Two of the substances found in citrus aurantium are called synephrine and octopamine. Synephrine is found naturally in the adrenal gland in the human body. Octopamine is found in the nervous system of the human body. Both substances can help in the fat oxidation process and in increasing energy levels and vigor. The substances found in citrus aurantium can activate thermogenesis mechanisms in the fat tissue. One of the few studies that managed to prove the effectiveness of the fruit in increasing thermogenesis and weight loss combined a proper diet, performing regular physical activity on a weekly basis, and combining the substance with caffeine. On the other hand, in all the studies performed at rest, the effectiveness of the substance in losing weight and losing fat percentages was not found. From this, it can be concluded that although it is an effective substance, to see results during its use, one must maintain a proper diet and a training routine. The safety of using citrus aurantium. Studies have found that using synephrine alone increases systolic blood pressure in healthy people in general and people with cardiovascular problems in particular. But when citrus aurantium was used, no increase in blood pressure was usually observed. The researchers concluded that the combination of the substances in citrus and aurantium eliminates the effect that causes blood pressure to rise. Green tea contains high amounts of substances called polyphenols, and to be precise, a subfamily called catechins. The catechins in green tea have a thermogenesis increasing effect on the human body. Green tea also contains caffeine, which itself affects thermogenesis, as described earlier. Mechanisms. The action of green tea is to increase the duration of action of adrenaline and noradrenaline, as well as all the mechanisms of action of caffeine. Studies show that the effect of green tea on increasing thermogenesis is greater than the effect of caffeine in same amounts. In addition, green tea has been found to be effective in maintaining a low weight after losing weight. That is, in combination with a low caloric intake, it prevents gradual weight gain. The safety of using green tea. In Chinese and Japanese culture, green tea has been used for thousands of years. As of today, no side effects have been found with the use of green tea, and it is considered safe to use. Vitamins and minerals. The importance of vitamins and minerals, their contribution and where to find them. And it's not in the sausages you like to eat at 2 in the morning. Well, maybe some of them. Vitamin A, retinol. Sources: eggs, fruits, green and yellow vegetables, low-fat dairy products, and liver. Activity is necessary for growth, skin, bone, and tooth health. Helps maintain good vision and helps the body fight infections. Thiamine, vitamin B1. Sources: pork, whole and enriched grains, legumes, and seafood. Activity promotes the use of carbohydrates as an energy source. Helps maintain the normality of the nervous system. Riboflavin, vitamin B2. Sources: low-fat dairy products, green leafy vegetables, whole and enriched grains, beef, lamb, and eggs. Activity helps the body use proteins and carbohydrates to create energy and build tissues, helps maintain healthy facial skin and eyes. Niacin, vitamin B3. Sources: yeast, beer, rice, sesame, legumes, eggs, meat of all kinds, dairy products, nuts, and sunflower seeds. Activity: necessary for maintaining the normality of the nervous system, healthy skin, and proper digestion. Helps cells use oxygen to release energy and carbohydrates. Pantothenic acid, vitamin B5. Sources: yeast, mushrooms, soy products, whole grains and legumes, sunflower seeds, eggs, vegetables, dairy products, meat, and salmon. Activity: helps in the metabolism of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats in the production of energy. Helps in the synthesis, assembly of amino acids, fatty acids, and hormones. Pyridoxine, vitamin B6. Sources: brewer's yeast, potatoes, legumes, bananas, poultry, tuna, avocado, carrots, fish-like tuna, whole grains, sunflower seeds, wholemeal bread. Activity: helps in the use of protein in the body. Helps the body use copper and iron. Prevents certain forms of anemia. Biotin, vitamin B8. Sources: yeast, whole rice, dairy products, soybeans, mushrooms, whole wheat, cashews, eggs, green peas, eggs, lentils, nuts, sunflower seeds, mackerel, meat produced in the body by gut bacteria. Activity: necessary for normal metabolism of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Folic acid, vitamin B9. Sources: beans, green leafy vegetables, citrus fruits, meat, wheat germ, beets, barley, lentils, whole rice, soy, peas, eggs, whole wheat bread. Activity: necessary for the development of red blood cells. Necessary for normal metabolism of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Cobalamin, vitamin B12. Sources: chicken meat, lean beef, eggs, and low-fat milk. Activity: necessary in the process of creating red blood cells in the bone marrow. Necessary for building new proteins in the body and for the proper functioning of nerve tissue. Vitamin C, ascorbic acid. Vitamin C is a water-soluble vitamin that acts as a powerful antioxidant. Man does not produce vitamin C in his body. There are two types of vitamin C: ascorbic acid, the excess of which is excreted from the body within about 3 hours. Ester C that took 8 hours to break down in the body. Vitamin C is the least stable of all the vitamins and is very sensitive to oxygen. Its strength can be damaged by exposure to light, heat, and air that stimulate the action of oxidizing enzymes. Sources: citrus fruits, tomatoes, melons, broccoli, and green and red peppers. Activity: necessary for building collagen, for the health of the gums and blood vessels. Helps in the absorption of iron, helps the body fight infections and heal wounds. Vitamin D sources: egg yolk, fish oil, sardines, salmon, and tuna, fortified milk, also produced in the skin when exposed to the sun. Activity: necessary for the absorption and use of calcium and phosphorus in building and maintaining healthy bones and teeth. Vitamin E. Sources: vegetable oil, almonds and nuts, green vegetables, whole grains and legumes. Activity: helps slow down the rate of destruction of vitamin A and vitamin C, protects the red blood cells. Vitamin K. Sources: green leafy vegetables, cereals, and egg yolk. Activity: helps in the blood clotting process. Minerals, calcium sources: broccoli, sesame, cabbage, almonds, molasses, carobs, cheese, figs, quacker, plums, tofu, radish, broccoli, dairy products, green leafy vegetables, parsley, sardines. Activity: necessary for building bones and teeth, for proper muscle and nerve activity. Has a role in healing wounds and broken bones. Essential in the blood clotting process. Essential for the absorption of the following minerals and vitamins: vitamin A, C, D, E, as well as phosphorus and magnesium. Copper sources: oysters, nuts, dry legumes, grains, potatoes, vegetables, almonds, avocado, grits, black pepper, molasses, Brazil nuts, broccoli, cashews, cocoa, shrimp, garlic, grapes, green leafy vegetables, green olives, honey, mushrooms, oats, oranges, sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, herringfish, salmon, pecans. Activity necessary for the synthesis, assembly of hemoglobin and the metabolism of iron. Helps maintain the integrity of blood vessels. Iodine sources, asparagus, cod liver oil, salmon, garlic, lima beans, seaweed, mushrooms, shrimp, oysters, sea salt, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, spinach, and soybeans. Activity necessary for the metabolism of fats, for growth, regulating energy production, essential for the absorption of carbohydrates, for a balanced cholesterol level, for hair, nails, and teeth, for the conversion of carotene into vitamin A, and for the production of proteins by the ribosomes. Iron sources: beef, fish, chicken, legumes, green leafy vegetables, whole and enriched grains, seaweed, molasses, wheat germ and husk, cocoa, figs, parsley, almonds, plums and cashews. Activity necessary to create hemoglobin, which carries oxygen from the lungs to the body's cells. Iron deficiency causes anemia. Magnesium sources: cashews, pecans, almonds, Brazil nuts, seeds, grains such as millet, buckwheat, whole rice, legumes, soy products, garlic, halibut fish, mackerel, molasses, sesame, sunflower seeds, tofu, wheat, avocado, mineral water. Activity necessary for building bones and teeth. Helps in the transmission of nerve impulses and in the process of muscle contraction. Activates enzymes necessary for the metabolism of carbohydrates and energy. Phosphorus. Sources: cabbage, cheeses, corn, cocoa, eggs, fish, fruits, legumes, garlic, meat, nuts, poultry, pumpkin seeds, rice, sunflower seeds, soy, and whole grains. Activity necessary in combination with calcium for bones and teeth. Necessary for enzymes participating in energy metabolism. Regulates the acid-base balance in the body. Potassium sources: almonds, avocados, bananas, Brazil nuts, broccoli, whole rice, cabbage, cashews, celery, citrus, dairy products, figs, dates, fish, garlic, grapefruit, green leafy vegetables, soy, sunflower seeds, potatoes, grains, fillets, parsley, guava, tomatoes, nuts, molasses, and lentils. Activity helps in the synthesis, assembly of the proteins. Helps maintain fluid balance in the body, necessary for the normality of the nerves and muscles. Sodium sources: salt, olives, green tomatoes, baking soda, poultry, beef, anchovies, butter, margarine, milk, and sardines. Activity necessary for enzymatic reactions. Helps in maintaining the fluid balance in the body and the acid-base balance in the body. Helps in the absorption of nutrients, including carbohydrates. Zinc sources: pumpkin seeds, tofu, legumes, eggs, mushrooms, pecans, oysters, soybeans, sunflower seeds, seafood, molasses, crabs, meat, dairy products, sesame seeds, sunflowers, wheat germ, and eggs. Activity. Zinc is important for building the protein collagen, for absorbing B vitamins, for the metabolism of carbohydrates, for increasing the production of testosterone, for the formation of insulin, for the formation of DNA, and for brain activity. Water activity is necessary for all chemical reactions occurring in the body, necessary for transporting nutrients and blood, regulating body temperature, and eliminating waste materials. Menus, for example, only. Recipes, and how to write your own menu, writing the menu. I'm sure some of you have reached this section without reading what I wrote before. So do yourself a favor. Don't be lazy, and read everything, because after all, everything is for your benefit. Here I will give you an explanation of how to write a menu, tips from myself, and a sample menu with explanations of what to eat and what not to eat. So where do we start? From the calculation of the calories you burn per day. And for this, we need a BMR calculator, which can be found on the internet. If you are under 15 years old, there is nothing to worry about. Calculate your BMR as if you were 15 years old. The differences are really small. 1. Type your details in the calculator and you will receive the result. Perform the following calculation operations with it. A. Multiply the result by 1.2. BMR is the amount of calories you burn at rest. That is, how many calories you will burn if you sleep all day. In its full name, basal metabolic rate is the number of calories the body burns to maintain a normal life and the maintenance of all body systems, heart, lung, digestive system, and more. When you multiply the result by 1.2, you get the resting metabolic rate, RMR, the number of calories burned while resting with light minor activities such as showering, walking around the house, sitting in front of the computer, working in the office, being a school student, etc. This parameter contains the BMR, EMR, the number of calories burned due to physical activity. Maintenance, RMR plus EMR, is the number of calories that make up all three components: the basic metabolic rate, the resting metabolic rate, and the number of calories burned due to physical activity. B. If you engage in any aerobic activity, add the number of calories you burn to the result. In 1 minute of normal walking, you burn about 7 calories, and in 1 minute of running, about 9. Of course, it varies in intensity. In order to accurately calculate how much we burn calories in aerobic activity, weight training, etc., we will use an internet calculator. We will type in a Google search for calories burned calculator and go to a website called calculator.net, where you will choose the type of activity, the duration of the activity, and your body weight. This is not a bad general assessment for average people. However, there are two main groups into which the formulas will not fit, and they are: A. Very obese people, 30% fat or more for men, 40% fat or more for women. B. Athletes with large muscle mass, referring to the level of professional competitors. Each person, as well as animals and other living creatures, has X calories that he burns while resting without actually doing anything. Calories are actually energy. Our body requires this energy to create chemical and metabolic processes in our body and to activate the systems in our body. Otherwise, we die. There is a direct relationship between the number of calories, energy we need in a day, and our physiological parameters, age, weight, and height, as well as to which gender group we belong, women or men. Well, let's simplify everything with a small example. Let's say I'm 25 years old. My weight is 100 kilograms, my height is 180, and my BMR is 2005 calories. When I multiply the number by 1.2, I get my RMR, 2005 * 1, 2 = 2406. The 2406 is actually the amount of calories I burn at rest, neutral caloric value, maintenance, on the days I don't exercise, watch Netflix, or scratch my balls. Now, if on Sundays I do weight training and burn 225 calories, according to the calculator, and on Mondays I run 5 kilometers and burn 297 calories, I add that to my neutral caloric value. On Sundays, 2,406 plus 225 equal EMR 2631, my neutral caloric value. On a weight training day, on Mondays, 2,406 plus 297 equal EMR 2,703, my neutral caloric value. On a day of running 5 kilometers. On a day of running and weight training, 2,406 plus 225 plus 297 equal 2,928 EMR equal my neutral caloric value on a day of running 5 kilometers and weight training. Determine the caloric deficit, small, medium, and large. Now, we will look at how to determine the caloric deficit for a decrease in fat percentage. For the sake of clarification, let's start from the assumption that you must create a deficit. That is, put in fewer calories than your body requires in a day and/or create this imbalance through physical activity in order for a decrease in fat percentage to occur. Maximum caloric deficit without loss of lean mass. muscle mass. A caloric deficit is a situation in which we take in fewer calories than our body requires and thus lose weight, part of which will be a decrease in fat. A caloric deficit can be created by a nutritional menu, aerobic activity, or a combination of them. Of course, if we train for 5 hours a day, we won't lose more fat because there is a limit to how much fat we can lose in a day or a similar period of time. The formula is simple and easy and determines 69 times the number of kilograms that are defined as fat in our body. The result we get will bring us to the maximum number of calories we can subtract from our maintenance or neutral balance without losing muscle. You can add 10-30% to the daily caloric deficit without losing muscle mass. If you do not know the percentage of fat in your body, there are ways at the beginning of the course. Simply subtract about 500 calories from your maintenance, RMR, from the equation in the previous section, and every week or two reduce 80-100 calories from the menu. Depending on the weight loss, the goal will be a decrease of 0.5, 1% of body weight every week. Small deficit, 15%, 0% below maintenance. Moderate deficit, 20-25% below maintenance. Large deficit, anything over 25% below maintenance, 0%. You must be asking what is wrong with him. It must be a mistake. So no, it's not a mistake. If you are someone without any experience in training, nutrition, etc., and have a very high percentage of fat, 30% plus for men, 40% plus for women, it will be very difficult for you to follow the menu you built and the training plan, in order not to fall in the middle of your process. First of all, start eating healthy. What does it mean to eat healthy? No sugary drinks, no energy drinks, no foods with bad or ugly fat, no sweets, no chips or other snacks. Include in your menu dishes that contain complex carbohydrates and unsaturated fat, the good. Protein products with high levels of protein and low levels of fat and carbohydrates. You must build a menu according to everything I mentioned and maintain a neutral caloric balance for at least 2 or 3 weeks. By neutral, I mean after all the calculations, including how much you burn in training. After those 2 weeks, your body will begin to get used to the new lifestyle you are trying to introduce to it. Thus, it will resist less and will understand that it is not in any kind of danger. After those 2 weeks, you will begin to reduce 200 calories each week from your neutral caloric balance until you reach approximately 600-800 calories. After about 3-4 months of persistence and hard work, you will start to see significant changes. But there may be a situation where the program suddenly stops and the weight loss stops. In this situation, you need to recalculate a path, which means that you will probably have lost a considerable amount of weight. Congratulations. And the menu you are currently eating is no longer right for you. It puts you in a neutral caloric range, so you need to recalculate your RMR and build a new menu. You must start training at least 3 times a week, mainly strength training. You will learn this later in the course, how to prepare a training plan that suits you. Remember that everything is a matter of persistence. The more you persevere, the more successful you will be. You will not see results right away. It will take time until you notice that the clothes are suddenly too big for you and you go shopping, or until the belly fat goes down and your partner will look at you again. Think of it like this. What happens if I don't brush my teeth once? Probably nothing, except the smell of feces from the mouth. But with every day for 4-5 months or even a year, I won't brush them. My teeth will probably start to rot. And after this year of not brushing my teeth, how long will it take for my teeth to be healthy again? Probably much more than a year if I still have teeth left. And even if I don't, I've decided that I'm keeping them healthy, which means I'll go back to brushing them every day, going to the dentist, doing an implant, etc. I will do everything to get them back to health. The same goes for your body. It doesn't matter how old you are, 20, 30, 40, 50, or even 60. As soon as you decided that you wanted to make a change, you took the first step. Now all you have to do is persevere. Just choose in what form. Well, let's get back to our topic. Moderate caloric deficit. 20–25% below maintenance. Now let's look at a moderate caloric deficit, which is probably the most common approach among many populations, both professional and amateur. As noted, we will set the medium deficit to about 20–25% below caloric maintenance. Now we have come to more standard diets with more common recommendations to lose 350–600 grams per week. Of course, the disadvantage is that you have to create a bigger deficit in order to reach such a level of fat loss per week. Generally, diets with a moderate deficit tend to combine the restriction of food with some activity in order to achieve the desired deficit. It should be noted that a reduction of 250–300 calories per day from activity in combination with a reduction of 250–300 calories from food is still perfectly acceptable and does not require massive activity or massive restriction of food. On the other hand, it is definitely possible to reach this deficit by limiting food only without physical activity, and the result will be similar. Combining certain physical activity with a diet tends to allow more flexibility in food, and then we actually reach one of the advantages that exist in a small caloric deficit. The change in food should be minimal in order to reach the caloric deficit. It should be noted that even with exercise, the medium caloric deficit feels more like a diet than a small caloric deficit. A person on a diet generally feels that he is being restricted more unless he creates the entire deficit just from physical activity. For athletes and amateur trainers, this is an advantage because the intensity of the training is practically not compromised. Of course, since the rate of fat loss is faster, the diet tends to end faster. For the high-fat exercisers, the very idea of having to stick with the diet for a year can be daunting, but at least the diet will progress much faster than a low-calorie deficit diet. Large caloric deficit, 25% or more below maintenance. To emphasize the point, we will use, instead of a deficit of 25%, an extreme deficit of 35%. It is necessary to note that for people with very high fat percentages and with high caloric maintenance, usually these will be people with at least 25 to 30 kilograms excess weight, the rate of fat burning can be increased by 0.6 kilograms of fat per day when the consumption. The calorie count is low enough, but it will require strong willpower. You can immediately see that the biggest advantage for some people of this method is that the rate of fat burning is the maximum. As mentioned, for especially large people, the numbers may still increase, and a rate of decrease of 2.51 kilogram per week is definitely possible, although not easy. Another advantage of the method is that the diet ends much faster than with the other methods we mentioned before. A diet that used to take 2–3 months can be completed within a month. For some people, this is a huge advantage. They can go back to serious training or what they were doing before, since the diet doesn't bother them for a long time. In addition, for people who need to lose a large amount of fat, a large initial loss can provide positive reinforcement in the more advanced stages of the diet. Again, someone who needs to lose 25 to 45 kilograms will probably be disappointed with a loss of 0.5 to 1 kilograms in the first week. A large negative deficit may produce a drastic loss, and some of it liquid, of 3 to 5 kilograms in the first week, which can help with long-term persistence. Even a period of 2–4 weeks with a large negative deficit to achieve a significant first loss and then switch to a moderate deficit diet can be useful in this situation. In addition, assuming that the diet is well planned, appropriate amount of protein, combined with appropriate training, heavy weight training, minimal or zero muscle mass loss can be experienced. This is likely contrary to popular opinion, but you are welcome to try and tell us the results you achieved, assuming you did everything by the book. It is true that previous studies concluded that a large caloric deficit and very low caloric consumption lead to more muscle loss. But in these studies, the protein consumption was incorrect and was not included in the weight training program. When someone is on 300 calories a day, don't do this, and half of the calories are carbohydrates, this results in that person consuming only 40 grams of protein. Of course, you lose muscle, but not necessarily because the caloric intake is low, but because the diet is planned in a stupid way. Which brings us to one of the disadvantages of this diet. Since the deficit created is large, most of it has to come from the diet. Most people cannot spend so many hours to burn the calories needed in such a deficit from physical activity, so in the end, it mostly comes down to extensive cutting back on food. Since so few calories are consumed, there is almost no flexibility regarding food. The diets with the large deficit always amount to a high amount of protein, are low in carbohydrates and relatively low in fat, because this is the only way to reach a large deficit while satisfying an appropriate amount of protein. There is simply no room for anything else. From a long-term persistence perspective, this could be a problem. While these diets always include free meals, carb loading, and breaks from the diet to make up for it, some people can go crazy with such a limited selection and such a limited amount of food. On the other hand, diets with a large negative deficit are rarely done for long periods anyway, and often a short period of extreme dieting can cause people to reset problems with food. They can lose the desire for many of the foods they used to binge on before, and this can help in the long run. And regarding persistence, again, contrary to popular opinion, there is actually information that indicates better fat burning in the long term when the initial fat weight loss is faster. But this depends on the structure of the diet in a certain way. The diet must change long-term eating patterns. That is, it must be based on whole foods, not on protein shakes. It must include physical activity and work on the behavioral aspect of eating. Not all big deficit diets are built this way, and those that aren't are destined to fail. Diets that make you live on smoothies or whatever may give excellent results in reducing fat mass, but do not help at all in the long term, since nothing is done to change dietary habits and help a person know what to eat once the diet is over. Obviously, when the deficit is all so massive, it is almost impossible not to achieve it without making a big mistake in terms of choosing the foods in the daily diet. This often happens. People may choose a protein-rich food that contains too much fat and carbohydrate, which can reduce the deficit. But even with that, the deficit is still accumulating, and the rate of fat loss is quite rapid. On the same note, it should be noted that the serious restriction can be too much for some people. Surprisingly, many report that hunger does not play such a significant role. Because of the appetite-suppressing effect of the protein and its large amounts in the menu, hunger often disappears. However, the phenomenon is certainly not universal. In addition, some people will find it difficult to stick with this for an extended period of time, while others will find it difficult to return afterwards to caloric maintenance. This is actually a big part of the reason that diets like this work best on a whole foods basis. When the diet is based on protein shakes, the person has no idea how to go back to eating normally when the diet ends. When the diet is based on whole foods, such as lean protein, vegetables, and essential fats, as soon as it ends, you can simply add other foods to this base. But even so, some people cannot persevere and succeed with a large deficit. These people, who are drawn to the yo-yo effect, should consider a different diet. It should be noted that from a metabolic point of view, diets with a large caloric deficit have the greatest effect on metabolic parameters. But that's the price to pay for a faster drop rate. As they say, life is one big compromise. If you want the damage to the metabolism to be minimal, use a diet with a smaller deficit. The price you pay is simply a slower rate of loss and a longer diet. Of course, loading or planned breaks from the diet will help these types of diets succeed if you do them correctly. Again, it's not for everyone. Finally, large deficit diets have the greatest effect on training and exercise capacity. In fact, too much activity in a large calorie deficit can do more harm than good. For people who just love to exercise, or who must exercise a lot for some reason, diets with a large calorie deficit are simply not applicable. They must choose something else. On the other hand, for some athletes, a 2-week period with a large deficit diet, with a serious reduction in training, can allow them to return to regular training afterwards, and will cause less damage to training than a moderate deficit diet lasting 10 weeks. It all depends on the people and their specifics. Cheat meals. It is very difficult to stick to a diet without becoming mentally ill, so you can sometimes eat a cheat meal. A meal that is not included in the menu, for example, a few slices of pizza, preferably something with protein and fat, that will calm you down. This meal is not mandatory, but possible if you need it in such a way that it will help you continue the diet for several more weeks. The cheat meal is part of the menu. Don't miss it. Among other things, it is also important for balancing the hormonal situation in the body. Replace 1 or 2 meals on the menu instead of the cheat meal. The order of the cheat meals. Category 3. You are allowed to eat 2 cheat meals a week. Category 2. You're allowed to eat a cheat meal once a week. Category 1. No cheat meals at all. Notes about the cheat meals asterisk. The term cheat meals is misleading. These are not meals where you can eat 20 hamburgers, wipe your nose with mayonnaise and a glass of vodka and cola. This is a meal that is supposed to be a break from the routine and help from the psychological aspect, and you can consume forbidden things in the daily menu, such as a hamburger and fries or a good steak, as well as nibble on a nice slice of cake, etc. Asterisk. You should eat it at the end of the day, after a workout. Gives great energy and motivation, so that it is the last meal of the day. Then the next day you get up in the morning and go back to the regular menu more easily. Asterisk. Don't be alarmed if after the cheat meal you gain weight in an unusual way. These are just fluids that return after renewed eating of carbohydrates, and they will go back down within a few days. A correct nutrition menu will be the key to success in losing weight and fat. Without a menu that operates according to the principle of a negative caloric deficit, we will not lose weight, and no matter how much physical activity we do. If at the end of the day the body receives more calories than it needs, we will not lose weight and even gain weight. We will start the menu with the protein composition. The recommendation is 2.0, 1.8 grams of protein per kilogram of weight. With low fat percentages, the recommendation will be 2.5, 3 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. If you weigh 100 kilograms, you will need to consume between 150 and 180 grams of protein per day. More extreme diets will need even more. The conditions of protein consumption change with the nutritional menus, when there are currently many methods of diets and nutritional menus. Low-high in carbohydrates, low-high in fat, etc. We will focus on the most basic diet, a balanced nutrition menu consisting of proteins, carbohydrates, and fats without avoiding any of them. A diet of this type will probably be effective for most people up to a certain percentage of fat, usually relatively low, men up to 12% fat, women up to 18% fat. If you are not sure what your fat percentage is, you can measure it in several ways at the beginning of the course. You can make a menu for each of the situations and eat according to 4-5 different menus a week. In my opinion, this is too much work and even an obsession, so we will take an average of all the days and put together one menu with the same total calories. Example. Let's take the same example we wrote about before. A human weighing 100 kilograms with an RMR of 2,400 calories per day. The same one does aerobics 5 times a week, walking, cycling, skiing, etc., of 40 minutes and burns about 300 calories just from the aerobic activity, in addition to about 3 weight trainings a week, which provide another 220 calories that are burned in the weight training. If we add all these numbers, it turns out that on a training day of weights plus aerobics, the caloric intake we will need will be 2,400 plus 300 plus 220 equal 2920 calories, rounded to 3,000 calories. On a day without weight training but only aerobics, the exerciser will require 2,400 plus 300 equal 2,700 calories. And on a weight training day only, The exerciser will require 2,400 plus 220 equal 2620 calories, rounded to 2,600 calories. So we got a day of weight training plus aerobics equal 3,000 calories. Aerobic training day only equal 2,700 calories. Weight training day only equal 2,600 calories. A day without training, which is a neutral maintenance day, equal 2,400 calories. In our example, we took a person who weighs 100 kilograms and has 20% fat. It turns out that he has 20 kilograms of fat. Now, we will find the maximum caloric deficit to check what is the maximum that can be reduced to preserve. Among other things, the muscle mass. Remember, initially, 69 times the number of kilograms of fat in our body equal maximum caloric deficit. People who do not know their percent fat will set a caloric deficit of 500 calories and increase it by 100, 200 calories every few weeks, according to a weight loss of 0. 5 to 1 kilograms per week. You will most likely see the lower number in your weekly balances. 69x 20 equal 1380. The result we got shows our maximum deficit, which is 1380 calories. We will refer to this as 1400 calories. Since I prefer not to do hours of cardio or starve myself, I will not be in a 1400 calorie deficit, as this is the maximum deficit I can be in, so I will set 1000 calories as a maximum deficit. Building the menu. 1. Weight of the exerciser, 100 kilograms at 20% fat, 20 kilograms of fat. 2. The maximum deficit is 1400 calories, but we will use only 1000 calories due to the reasons listed before, although there will be several days in an even smaller deficit, for example, on rest days. 3. The menu will consist of 2000 calories, because this is the average we arrived at based on the calculations above. We took 2,000 calories because it is a round number and it does not really reflect the exact average of all the calculations we did here. It won't matter much if you eat 1,700 or 2,100 calories. The clear principle is that we must be in a negative caloric balance in order to lose weight. I always start with the protein calculation, move on to the fat calculation, and end with the carbohydrate calculation according to the importance of things, but this can be debated. Protein calculation. Choose 2.0 grams per kilo of body weight. 100 kilograms multiplied by 1.8 will get 200 grams of protein. 1 gram of protein is equivalent to about 4 calories, so we will get 800 calories. 200x4 equal 800. Fat calculation. There is no blanket recommendation for how much of the entire menu should consist of fat, but it is usually calculated according to 0.8 grams of fat per person's general weight. If in our example we took a person weighing 100 kilograms multiplied by 0.8, we will get a result of about 80 grams of fat. 100x0. 8 equal 80. 1 gram of fat is equivalent to about 9 calories, so we will get 720 calories. 80x9 equals 720 of them. Calculation of carbohydrates. To calculate the carbohydrates, we first need to sum up what we got calorically in the fat and protein calculation. Therefore, 800 plus 720 equal 1520 calories. As a result, we have 480 calories left over from the total of 2,000 calories we put in to begin with. 480 equal 2,000 to 1520. We mentioned at the beginning that 1 gram of carbohydrate is equivalent to about 4 calories. Therefore, we will get 120 grams of carbohydrate, 120 equal 480/4, the results we got from building our menu. Protein, 200 grams. Carbohydrate, 120 grams. Fat, 80 grams. Calories, 2,000 calories. Now let's start reading food labels. For example, in a chicken breast, 100 grams of product, there are about 30 grams of protein. In a slice of bread, there are about 16 grams of carbohydrates, etc. I highly recommend using nutrition calculators, food calculators, To get an indication of the food you consume, they help you build a list of foods and calculate their caloric value. Arrange the meals according to your lifestyle. It doesn't matter how many meals you eat and in what order. Some tips for healthy and tasty food: unfried chicken breast, oatmeal, dry rice, etc. are just a small part of an endless list of foods that you have to give up the pleasure of eating them with oil/flavoring/frying, etc. Here are 2 quick tips that will improve your food and enrich your everyday life. Spices. For the most part, spices do not have a caloric value and therefore you can use them. Spice, hot paprika, sweet paprika, garlic, black pepper, cinnamon, turmeric, etc. can add a lot to your food, especially for foods like rice, chicken breast, pasta. Sauces. Sauces are often very fattening products and people tend to put too much of them. There are companies like Walden Farms or Skinny Food that market low-calorie sauces, syrups and spreads. What is low-calorie, you ask? Between 4 calories per 100 milliliters and up to 45 calories per 300 milliliters of chocolate sauce. Adding a few drops of the above sauce to your oats will work wonders and improve your meals on several levels. Example, menu. Breakfast. Omelette, 200 grams, 293 calories, 20.6. Protein, 2 carbohydrates, 22.8 fat, 700 cholesterol, 0 dietary fiber. Cottage cheese, 0.5%, 100 grams, 67 calories, 14 protein, 1.5 carbs, 0.5 fat, 2 cholesterol, 0 dietary fiber, lunch tuna in water, canned. 200 grams, 221 calories, 51 protein, 0 carbs, 1.6. Fat, 0 cholesterol, 0 dietary fiber. Cooked brown rice, 200 grams, 237 calories, 5 protein, 51 carbohydrates, 1.2. Fat, 0 cholesterol, 2.4 dietary fiber. Cooked whole wheat pasta, 200 grams, 258 calories, 10.6 protein, 51 carbohydrates, 1 fat, 0 cholesterol, 3.8 dietary fiber. Boiled chicken breast, 200 grams, 288 calories, 58 protein, 0 carbs, 6 fat, 150 cholesterol, 0 dietary fiber. Dinner, tahini, 20 grams, 123 calories, 3.4. Protein, 3.2 carbohydrate, 10.9 fat, 0 cholesterol, 2 dietary fiber avocado with the peel, 200 grams, 243 calories, 3 protein, 7.8 carbohydrates, 22.6. Fat, 0 cholesterol, 3.8 dietary fiber. Roasted or baked salmon, 150 grams, 262 calories, 38.1, protein, 0 carb, 12.1, fat, 106.5 cholesterol, 0 dietary fiber. Total calories, 1992. Protein, 204 grams. Carbohydrate, 117 grams. Fat, 79 grams. Cholesterol, 958 milligrams. Fiber, 12 grams. The complete guide to building a training program that will suit you, plus training programs for demonstration exercise physiology. When you exercise, a load is applied to the muscle. This load causes macroscopic tears in the muscle fibers. After the training, when there is proper nutrition, the body rebuilds the muscle only stronger than last time, so that it can withstand similar loads. Therefore, it will always be important to add a load, progressive overload, from training to training. That's why you need to understand that muscle building is in rest and not in training. So if a person does not rest, he will not progress. Good nutrition. In order for you to see results, apart from training, you will also need to maintain a proper diet according to your goals. Whether it is a toning plan or with a mass plan, the diet includes 3 things. The first is proteins. The second is the number of calories, and the third is sleep. The minimum needed for proteins is 1.8 grams per kilo body, means a person who weighs 50 will have to eat a minimum of 90 grams of protein a day. And the second thing is calories. Calories are fuel for the body. At any given moment, the body burns calories to operate the systems, for example, to breathe, for the heart to work. Each person has an amount calories that he burns every day, and this is called neutral calories. Let's say my neutral calories are 2,500 calories, which means that my body needs 2,500 calories every 24 hours to survive. But what happens in training? I burn more calories, so my calorie consumption will increase according to the example. If my goal is body toning and weight loss, and my caloric deficit is 500 calories a day, 2,000, I did weight training and burned 300 calories. It turns out that currently my caloric deficit is 800 calories, 1,700, 500 from nutrition and 300 from exercise. Therefore, I must consume another 300 calories in my diet so that I can stay in the caloric deficit that I have set for myself, or I can be in a caloric deficit of 200 calories in my diet. As I said, the muscle is built by rest, so if you don't rest enough, the muscle won't build. The minimum required is about 6 consecutive hours of sleep, and the more the better. The same with protein, you can even 2.5 grams per kilo of body. Note, everything I wrote here is mandatory in order to see progress. From here on, everything I say is optimal and less optimal. For example, it is optimal to do leg presses and more optimal to do squats. There is no such thing as mandatory. So after understanding what the 3 principles are in order to see progress in our goal, we will move on to training and some concepts. Training volume. Training volume refers to how much total weight I lifted during training. It is a multiplication of the number of repetitions x the number of sets x and the weight of the work. A few examples. First example, where we do 5 sets of 10 repetitions with a weight of 100 kilos, we will get a work volume of 5,000. Second situation, in which we do 10 sets of 5 repetitions with a weight of 100 kilos, we will get the same volume of work as in the first situation. This example comes to explain that the most important variable to pay attention to is the final training volume, and there is no point in looking at each component of the workload separately. But if we think about it for a moment, how long will it take us to perform 5 sets of a certain exercise? And how long will it take us to perform 10 sets of the same exercise? Do we have enough time in the gym to do 10 sets of one exercise? Is the working weight I will choose in a set of 5 repetitions the same as the working weight I will choose in a set of 10 repetitions? After all, it is likely that if we perform fewer repetitions in a set, then the work weight with which the exercise is performed should be higher. All these questions should be asked by every trainee, and according to the answers, we will choose the program according to which we will act. If we return to the previous example, the same exerciser can perform 5 sets of 10 repetitions with 100 kilos in one workout. Then we will get a work volume of 5,000. And in his second workout, the same trainee will perform 6 sets of 10 repetitions with 100 kilos. Then we will get a work volume of 6,000. This means that in total, in the second workout, the person exercising has done more work. And if he makes sure to increase the volume of the workout, this can be from workout to workout, from week to week, and even from month to month, then he will be able to make sure that in the long run, he produces an improvement trend. You don't have to increase the amount of sets to increase the volume of work. You can increase each of the components to get a larger volume of work. More you will progress in strength. There are many calculators on the internet that help calculate your RM. Intensity is defined as the ratio between the weight, or the average weight we used, and the 1 RM weight, maximum weight for one repetition. Or level of difficulty, high intensity is usually called a weight that is 65% of RM1 and above, meaning that it is clear to everyone that it is more difficult to lift 80 kilos than 60, meaning that when I do an exercise with 80 kilos, it will be more of a higher intensity than with 60 kilos. Intensity vs volume. So apparently in order to progress, we need to increase the volume and intensity as much as possible. The more volume and intensity my program has, the better it will be, right? So here is the catch. Volume comes at the price of intensity, and intensity comes at the price of volume. Everyone understands that if my RM1 is 100 kilos, I can't do 2 repetitions with it, but if I do 90 kilos, I can do 2 repetitions. So, 1. Repetition. Multiply 1. Set. Multiply 100 kilograms equal 100 kilos of volume 2. Repetition. Multiply 1. Set. Multiply 90 kilos equal sign 180 kilos of volume. Where is there more volume? In the second, where is there more intensity? In the first, a good plan will be a plan that combines both of them. Levels of trainees. A trainee's level does not depend on his strength, size, or any other attribute. An exerciser's level is defined as depending on the amount of volume work he needs to do to disrupt homeostasis. The response to this disruption is described below, general adaptation syndrome. In the absence of any disturbance, the body is in a state called homeostasis, internal balance, or equilibrium. The purpose of training is to get the body out of this equilibrium in order to make progress. Beginner exerciser. 1 training day is enough for him to cause homeostasis disruption, and the recovery from this training day is enough to cause adaptation and progress in the next training. Intermediate exerciser. An exerciser who has exhausted the ability to progress from exercise to exercise and cannot recover from the amount of work required to disrupt homeostasis. Such an exerciser usually requires different training levels throughout the week to recover and progress from week to week. Advanced trainee. A trainee who has completed the middle phase of training and cannot progress on a weekly basis. An advanced level exerciser usually needs long periods of work and recovery to make progress. Controlling and manipulating the training parameters of an advanced exerciser is called periodization. General adaptation syndrome. This model was proposed by Hans Selye in 1936 as a description of the processes the body undergoes after exposure to an external stressor. In our case, the stressor is lifting weights. Stage 1. Shock or anxiety. It is an immediate response to an external stressor. The reaction includes inflammation, a change in protein synthesis, a change in processes at the level of the cells in the body, discomfort at the level of the skeleton and muscles, and a decrease in the level of performance. Step 2. Adaptation or resistance. At this stage, the body reacts by increased production of certain hormones and the accumulation of proteins. Basically, the body tries to ensure survival by adapting to repeated exposure to the external stressor. Stage 3. Exhaustion. If the pressure exerted on the body repeats too frequently, or the pressure itself is too great, the body will not be able to adapt and will reach a state of exhaustion. Selye claimed that applying such pressure for 1 to 3 months could cause death. In short, no one wants to be at this stage for long. Single factor model. If one workout is enough to take the body out of biological equilibrium, then the results of this are known according to the model we have just described. The result will be local at the muscle level and global at the body level. Also, there will be a slight, perhaps not even measurable, performance degradation. All this will happen immediately after training. Hours and maybe days later, the performance will return to the original level and even improve beyond. This is called supercompensation. At this point, the trainee has completed stage 2 of Selye's model. Now, repeating the same workout won't affect it, so the next workout needs to be heavier to cause supercompensation again. Training in this model represents a linear progression and corresponds to a supercompensation model or single-factor model. The emphasis is on having a full recovery and an increase in the level of performance from training to training. Dual-factor model. This model is an extension of the previous model and also takes into account the reasons why any performance is obtained. In the model that Vladimir Zatsiorsky proposes in his book, The science and practice of strength training, fitness, and exhaustion are the two things that affect readiness. In this model, the two parameters are almost independent. This means that during training, we accumulate both fitness and exhaustion. The claim is that fitness is maintained 3 times longer than exhaustion. As a result of this theory, our training model will look like this. Step 1, training for some period of time. During these trainings, we gain both fitness and exhaustion. Phase 2, recovery, rest or lighter training. Step 3, increase in performance level. This model contains the previous model even in the case of a beginner-level trainer, because the steps in this case are very short and there is progress from training to training. In case of high-level athlete, the stages require high-level planning and long periods, weeks or months. As a conclusion from this, it can be seen that the level of the trainee does not depend in any way on how strong, big or fast the trainee is, but only on his ability to adapt. Overtraining. The key to understanding the process of progress in an exerciser is the concept of overload. This concept represents the amount of work required to bring the body out of homeostasis and cause adaptation. In our case, resistance training, overload is caused by lifting a heavier weight, a larger work volume, or even shorter rest times than the exerciser is used to. Creating a state of overload is not enough for progress. After every event of overload, there must come a recovery, otherwise we do not allow adaptation and progress. The term microcycle is defined as the period of time required to create an overload event and recover from it. Its length, as you can see, depends on the level of the trainee. For a beginner exerciser, a microcycle is about 2 days, time between workouts. The length of the microcycle increases depending on the level of the trainee until it loses its meaning in world-class trainers. With such trainers, it is customary to call this period of time a mesocycle. We will not use these terms. They are here for general knowledge. There are 3 possible outcomes for training load: exhaustion, overreaching, overtraining.